Good morning, Junior Tuckies. I would like to introduce myself. I am Mrs. Beardenkamp, a passionate and vibrant English teacher. I'm very excited to teach this section of work to you. Parts of speech are the main elements when analyzing a sentence. In this lesson, we are going to focus on the different types of verbs. The first question we should always ask ourselves, what is a verb? I'm sure you've been asked this question many times. A verb is an action or doing verbs. A few examples are running, crying, and laughing, and the list goes on and on. An example of a verb in a sentence would be, I ate my sandwich for lunch, or I wrote down the homework in my diary. Verbs also describe a state of being. Now, I understand this sounds confusing. But as you are sitting listening to this lesson right now, you are being. Our very existence is a verb. A verb is one of the main elements of a sentence. Without a verb, we cannot do anything. In this lesson, I will be covering the entire umbrella of verbs. The first verb we are going to look at is the most important verb of them all, the finite verb. We can call this verb the heart of the sentence because the sentence cannot stand on its own unless it has the finite verb. And therefore, without a finite verb, a sentence does not make grammatical sense. Just like you have a heart, you can stand on your own. However, if you did not have a heart, you could not stand on your own. A finite verb has three elements which include a subject, a number, and a tense. You can use the acronym SNT to check if there is a finite verb in your sentence. You need to ask yourself the questions. Is there a subject in my sentence? What number does the subject have? Is it singular or is it plural? And finally, what tense is your verb in? Let's practice with the example. The boy ran across the field to help his grandmother. Is there a subject in this sentence? Yes, the boy. What number is the boy? Is it singular or is it plural? The boy is only one, which makes our subject singular. Then, what is the tense of our verb? Ran. Ran is in past tense. By using this checklist, we could see that ran is a finite verb and the heart of our sentence. Let's try more examples on the next slide. Let's have a look at the first sentence and use our checklist, SNT. Does the sentence have a subject? Yes, the girl. What number is our subject? Is it singular or is it plural? The girl is only one girl, so the number is singular. What tense is this verb in? Waited. Waited is in past tense. So therefore, by using our checklist, waited is the finite verb in the sentence. Now, let's look at sentence number 2. Does this sentence have a subject? Yes, the towers. What number is our subject? Is it singular or is it plural? There are many towers, so our subject is plural. What tense is our verb in? Collapsed. Collapsed is in past tense. Therefore, the finite verb in this sentence is collapsed. Let's look at sentence 3. Does this sentence have a subject? Yes, they. What number is our subject? Is it singular or is it plural? They is many, so therefore it is plural. What tense is our verb in? Ran. Ran is in past tense. Therefore, by using our checklist, we know that the finite verb in the final sentence is ran. Auxiliary verbs can be called helping verbs. This is because auxiliary verbs help complete our finite verb. They do this by giving the verb tense, and it also helps us ask who or what is performing the action in the sentence. Examples of auxiliary verbs are am, is, was, being, and the list goes on. Please refer to the next slide to see all of the different types of auxiliary verbs and the tenses. Now, let's look at an example in a sentence. She was sitting in her room. Sitting in the sentence is a verb. However, one cannot say she's sitting in her room. That doesn't sound grammatically correct. We need to add was to the sentence to give the sentence the correct tense and for it to make grammatically correct sense. She was sitting in her room. You can also use the finite verb checklist to see where the finite verb is in the sentence. A hint: a finite verb can be more than one word. Remember, an auxiliary verb is helping give our finite verb tense. Another way to remember an auxiliary verb is to think of an auxiliary cable that one would use in their car to help make their phone sound louder. We often plug in the aux cable in our cars to help our music penetrate through the car. We also use an auxiliary verb to help give our verb tense. This is a list of all the different types of auxiliary verbs you may encounter. Take note of how an auxiliary verb changes with its tense. The next type of verb we are going to look at are non-finite verbs. These verbs do not contain a finite verb, and that is why I've included the broken heart. Remember, a finite verb is the heart of the sentence because the sentence can stand alone. Just how you can stand alone because you have a beating heart. However, the non-finite verbs are not finite and therefore cannot stand on its own. For non-finite verbs, we have an umbrella. We have a gerund, infinitives, and participles that include a past and a present participle. Let's now look at all these different verbs in more depth. The first non-finite verb we are going to look at is a gerund. A gerund is a non-finite verb that functions as a noun in the sentence. If we remove this word, the sentence cannot make grammatical sense. A gerund also ends in ing. Let's look at the examples. Example 1. Swimming is fun. Swimming in this sentence is working as a noun, although it is a verb. It ends in ing. Try remove swimming from the sentence and see if it makes sense. It doesn't, right? So, this means that swimming is a gerund. Let's look at example 2. Learning can be difficult. Learning is working as a noun in the sentence, although it is a verb. It also ends in ing. If we remove learning from the sentence, it makes no sense. Thus, learning is a gerund. Now, let's look at example 3. Smoking is bad for your health. Smoking in the sentence is the main idea or the noun. It ends in ing. And if we remove smoking from the sentence, it will not make grammatical sense. Therefore, smoking is a gerund. The next type of non-finite verb we are going to look at is the infinitive verb. To remember what type of verb this is, always look for to plus your verb in a sentence. Or you can remember it as the phrase from Toy Story, to infinity plus beyond. Let's look at our example. Example 1. They like to run every single day. The verb in the sentence is like. However, we can see another verb in the sentence, run. There is to in front of run, therefore to run is the infinitive verb. Let's look at example 2. I promise to love you forever. The verb in this sentence is promise, however, love is also a verb. We can see that love has to placed in front of it. Therefore, our infinitive is to love. Let's see the next kind of non-finite verb on the next slide. The final type of non-finite verb we are going to look at is a participle. There are two types of participles, past and present. A past participle always ends in ed. They function as part of a verb or an adjective. Now let's look at an example. Example 1. We ate a lot of roasted meat. In this sentence, we have the verb ate. However, roasted is also a verb. In this sentence, the word roasted ends in ed, and it also tells us more about our noun dinner. Therefore, roasted is a past participle working as an adjective. Let's look at example 2. She has burned dinner before. In this sentence, the verb is burned. It ends in ed, and it's functioning as a normal verb in the sentence. So therefore, burned is a past participle functioning as a verb. Let's move on to the next one, a present participle. A present participle ends in ing. It also functions as part of a verb or an adjective. Let's look at our examples. Example 1. We will be staying over tonight. In this sentence, the verb is staying. The word ends in ing. Therefore, staying is a present participle working or acting as a verb. Let's look at example 2. Don't try catch a running bus. In this sentence, try is our most obvious verb. However, running is also a verb. We are looking for a word that ends in ing. Thus, running is functioning as an adjective in this sentence, telling us more about the bus. So, running is a present participle. A top tip: to not get confused between finite verbs versus participles. When looking at your question, look what the question is asking. Are you looking for a finite verb or are you looking for participles? You have now learned about all the different kinds of verbs. Well done! In the next lesson, we are going to cover a different part of speech.